There are district attorneys and U.S. attorneys who are out there every day squeezing ordinary citizens on sometimes very thin grounds and taking them to trial in order to make an example, as they put it. I'm really concerned that too big to fail has become too big for trial. That just seems wrong to me.
So that was Senator Elizabeth Warren taking financial regulators to task for not being tough enough on large banks. She's taken a lot of criticism for her tough questions, but Warren has also received a lot of support for finally cracking down on the banks. So is she getting too tough for her own good? Joining me now for more on this is Anat Admati, professor of finance and economics at Stanford's Graduate School of Business and author of The Banker's New Clothes. Anat, thank you for joining us tonight. Is she going
Sandra,
too far? She was really chiding those regulators. You're not being tough enough. You know, we hear a lot of that from Elizabeth Warren, and here she is back, and she's doing the same thing.
Well, I think she's asking what everybody's asking. Every day we have scandals with the banks, and there seems to be some kind of a double standard, especially when we hear somebody from Justice Department saying that they worry about weakening the banks. So does being too big to fail give somebody immunity?
Well, rightly so. Our financial institutions are very important and essential to the success of this country. So we don't want to over-regulate the banks. We don't want to over-restrict them to the point where they can't be successful. So I think the concern that you do hear, I don't think everybody's asking, are we being tough enough on the banks? I think the concern that we ask is, that are we being too tough?
Well, I don't think so, not in every way. There's one way in which we're being completely lenient on the bank, and that is the way that most businesses in the economy have to face up to, which is who bears the losses when you lose. The banks are able to borrow at subsidized rates, and they don't have to own up to the full consequences of what they do. So there's no business in the economy that, even without regulation at all, that has borrows more than 70% of their assets. Most of them borrow, especially large corporations, a lot less than that. What about banks? Single digits, and then they complain. So they don't like to have to face equity investors. They just want to complain to the regulators that they could borrow cheaply.
But remember, we depend on those banks to then turn around and issue loans to the American people and outside of this country as well. So it's very important. By listening to you right now, I guess I'm wondering if you think that they're still today getting preferential treatment as much as the laws have cracked down on them.
Oh, completely. On this one issue that we write about in the book, they're getting completely preferential treatment, not just here, but in Europe as well. And it's very bad for the economy because we want most businesses to be as much as possible on their own. But the banks are way too dependent on guarantees and subsidies. And that makes the industry extremely unhealthy. So when you get so highly indebted, you don't make boring business loans. You just like to go play elsewhere. So the question is, why are banks not lending their earnings like every other company uses? They want to pay them out, but they have plenty of money to lend. They still don't.
So bottom line, remember, banks they're private institutions. They're in it to make money. They need to find ways to be profitable. One banking analyst, Dick Beauvais, you're probably familiar with his name. He's a very well-renowned analyst. He recently said her supporters, referring to Elizabeth Warren, put up some $30 million to buy her Senate seat. She owes her constituents an awful lot, so she's got to take a strident position against the banks. You say what to that?
Well, I say she's been completely consistent. If her supporters supported her, they knew what they were getting, and she's doing precisely what she was doing before, which is to ask tough questions about whether we're getting the best banking system that we can. And I think most of those who are elected get supported by people, and often from the industry, too.
All right.
So,
well, I think we've presented both sides of this story. Thanks, Anat, for joining us tonight.
Okay, thank you.